Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's one of those things. Welcome to the Chicken Box. We're so glad that you've joined us today. We have an exciting conversation with two of my favorite people today about a topic that's very, very important. And so we're glad that you're here. Text your friends, let them know that the Chicken Box is on. And if they say, well, we can't stop what we're doing right now, remind them that it'll be on a little later. It'll be there for them to watch later. But today is Thursday. It's Chicken Box time, and I'm excited, Jay, about the conversation that we're going to have. I'm Toni Draper, CEO of the Afro American newspapers, what we used to be called, but we're just Afro News, DMV's oldest Black-owned business, one that gets your news to you in many, many different formats. And we're just glad to be here. I'm here with one of my two co-hosts, Jay Jackson. Jay, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. I'm Jay Jackson. I'm a web editor for the Afro. So and also a co-host of the Chicken Box. So I'm absolutely happy to be here. I'm excited for today's show.
I am too, Jay. And so if you're not familiar with the Afro, go to afro.com, sign up for a subscription or a free newsletter, and know that we always want your news. We want to hear from you. Jay, tell us about our guests for today.
Absolutely. So we have two guests today, Franklyn Baker, who is from the United Way of Central Maryland, and Tamla Olivier, who is the president and CEO of Baltimore Gas and Electric. So I'll tell you a little bit about our guest. Franklyn is a cross-functional senior executive with nearly 30 years of diverse expertise, primarily in nonprofit organizations. He has been president and CEO of the United Way of Central Maryland since 2016. Under his leadership and organization, the organization has experienced measurable shifts in culture by championing equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives, as well as tremendous growth in revenue, people served, innovative programs, volunteers engaged, and much more. During his tenure, United Way has expanded its homelessness prevention and family stability sites, spearheaded new educational equity initiatives, and launched the development of 2 new family centers providing affordable childcare and early childhood education in Columbia and Poppleton, Maryland. Tamla Olivier is the current president and CEO of Baltimore Gas and Electric Company, or BGE, a subsidiary of Exelon Corporation and Maryland's largest electric and natural gas utility. She oversees the company's safety, reliability, customer service, financial performance, and commitment to an equitable energy transition, serving over 1.3 million electric and 700,000 gas customers. Tamla has a strong background in the Exelon family of companies. Before leading BGE, she was the COO of Exelon's Pepco Holdings, the parent company of Atlantic City Electric, Delmarva Power, and Pepco, starting in 2021. So that's a mouthful, but welcome to the show, both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
We're glad to have you. We're amongst corporate and nonprofit royalty. Both of you all do so much for the city. Now, for those of you who are tuning in from around the world, we have viewers from all over the world. We are based here in Baltimore, Maryland, and you can see by both titles that our guests are also right here in Baltimore as well. Baltimore Gas and Electric, United Way of Central Maryland. DMV is richer because of your presence and the work that you do. And we want to talk a little bit. This is the winter season almost. It's November. I don't know what it's like where everyone else is, but we had a little bit of a cold wave come through in the last week or so. And many people are like I am. They turned on their heat to try to keep warm. But there are some customers of yours, I'm sure, Tamla, clients and colleagues of yours, Franklyn, that's not that easy to do, just to go and turn the thermostat on. And so we want to talk about this customer relief fund. But before we get to the relief fund, why do we need what's going on in this area? And you probably can speak to other areas as well. But Franklyn, you want to set it up?
I want to thank you, Dr. Draper. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jay, and the rest of the Afro team, really for this conversation. That's what it is, right? It's special to be here alongside Miss Tamla Olivier, who whose leadership really, as we think about partnership, has just truly made a difference for thousands of Maryland families. We're talking about this whole space of utilities. So this, in my view, this conversation is timely, because United Way Central Maryland, again, Dr. Draper, was celebrating its 100th anniversary, a full 10 decades of service to our region through every kind of crisis and change, right? And so, particularly in the shadow of the government shutdown, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit today too, as well, more and more Marylanders are just finding themselves either without paychecks or without federal programs that they rely on, right? So, as you were saying, the BGE Customer Relief Fund, it just sort of exemplifies, if you will, that United is the way, and so together, right? We're meeting people where they are. We're just helping them sort of cross from crisis to stability, and then even more than that, building, I'd like to say, stronger communities together, right? And so I would love to hear my friend, my partner in this business, Tamla, share her perspective around kind of what are we doing here? What did we just complete, if you will?
Yeah, no, thank you, Franklin. And I think, as we are on this call, I think about the legacy that is the Afro. I think about the legacy that is United Way. I think about BGE being 209 years old. We have been in the city for a minute. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Baltimore is the community. It is real, it is alive, it is well. You have folks around Baltimore City and the surrounding areas that are absolutely passionate and committed in making sure that our communities thrive. So really excited to be here with Jay, with Dr. Draper, with my main man, Franklin. And, you talked about that partnership. And I want to talk about, before we dive into the Customer Relief Fund, why is that even necessary right now? And what I want to focus on is the fact that the state of Maryland right now has an energy security issue. And what that means is 40% of the energy that's being consumed in the state is being brought in from Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, meaning we are not generating all of the electricity in the state that is being leveraged. Where that becomes problematic is when you have supply issues and constraints. That means suppliers who supply gas and electric. And one of the things that I've quickly realized is many people don't realize that Baltimore Gas and Electric, we do not produce gas, we do not produce electric. And so we're like DoorDash. We just bring the gas and electric to your door. But the suppliers who actually make the gas and the electricity, they are charging Marylanders a significant premium because we do not generate enough power in the state. And so our customers are bearing the burden of that premium. So in 2023, our customers were paying about $28 a megawatt day. Only 2 years later, our customers are paying over $320 a megawatt day. So if your usage stayed the same from 23, 24 to 25, you are going to still see over 1,000% increase in terms of what you are paying on your bill. Another fact that folks don't know is that when you pay that supply portion of your bill, that doesn't come to BGE. That goes to the person in Jersey, in Pennsylvania, in Virginia, West Virginia, wherever that generator is, that goes directly to them. And what we're seeing in the DMV in particular, and Franklin, you touched on this, we are being even more impacted by federal layoffs. We are being impacted by furloughs and in this DMV area, and that is creating significant strain on our communities. People are dealing with increases in healthcare, increases at the gas station, increases at the grocery store, despite what people are saying on the news that the economy is well and thriving and no one is having challenges. That is not the reality. And so we knew we needed to jump in and help support our customers as they pay these high electric and gas bills. And we knew that there was only one partner that would allow us to be able to facilitate distributing $15 million to our customers, and that was Franklyn and his team at United Way of Central Maryland. So we quickly came together, and when I say quick, it was quick. How are we going to get these funds distributed? What is the process? Who are they calling into? What are the requirements? How much are we going to be giving folks? And Franklyn's team immediately stepped up to the challenge.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. So you said a whole lot. So I'm walking back just a little bit. I sure didn't go over anybody's head. You said if you use the same amount of gas and electricity in one period, or even if you use less, your bill could be higher than it was last year, right?
That's right.
First thing is, you hear people say, man, I had my sweater on, my coat, and my long johns, and my bill is
Not the long johns too.
Yeah. So it's impacting people that way from the supplier end, right? You're the DoorDash. I think it's important for people to know that.
Absolutely.
Because you have gas and electric in your name, I guess they figure you're responsible for all the rate things as well. But more importantly, as importantly, not more, because everybody's bill is astronomical. I got mine this morning on my way to work. I looked at it and said, no, what? We haven't had the heat on yet, right? But as importantly, you partnered with United Way. So, and you said you did it very, very quickly. So this fund is accessible now. Tell us a little bit about how it works.
So I will start, Tamla, you just pick on up. And thank you so much for sharing those kind words, Tamla, in terms of just scouring the landscape to see which entity in our region would be best suited based upon past experience and good rapport with community members and partners. And I was just so glad to get sort of that proverbial knock on the door, right, from BGE to say, let's work on this. And so we launched this BGE Customer Relief Fund in July. So July of this year. We were thinking it was going to go July, August, September, maybe a little bit into October, but we ended up really getting it completely finished, probably almost a month, a little bit less than a month before it was due to be complete. So we really expedited it, moved it really rapidly. The fund was really designed, let me just really say this for your listeners. It was designed to support limited and moderate income households, those who were hit hardest by the rising energy costs, as Tamla explained, right, so clearly. And I'm going to be hard pressed to get that DoorDash analogy out of my mind, Tamla. But anyway, so we targeted active and worked very, very closely with BGE, their incredible team, active BGE customers with past due balances of $250 or more, and that were 60 plus days overdue, but also whose income thresholds were up to 400% of the federal poverty level, right? So those were the basic sort of criterion we used. And this really did sort of, and I'll turn it back to you in a second, Tim, this ensured that what we call ALICE households, so those listeners who may not know that term, is those whose assets are limited, their income is constrained, but they are employed, they're working. So they were eligible. So these are again, working neighbors who, often earn too much to qualify for the traditional aid, from the government, but they still can't afford the basics, right? So do you want to kind of pick up any more you want to say about it, Tamla?
Yeah, I think what became very clear to us was we knew the need was there, but we opened the lines and within a couple of hours, the system crashed. That is the number of people were calling in, well exceeded what we even expected or anticipated. And one of the young women who called in, and once she got approved for the funds, and we called her to let her know that she was going to get $750 towards her energy bill, what she said to us was she broke down crying and said, "Thank you so much for this gift, because I was about to go out and get my third job." Not her second job, her third job. So the reality around the need for this fund and the fact that, folks are routinely facing difficulties around paying rent, mortgage, car note, healthcare, all the things. It became evident in that first 2 hours of us opening that lineup.
Okay, so Jay, you look like you're ready to jump in. Go right on.
Yeah, I got a list of questions here. So when someone gets, they realize, I think it's pretty obvious that they need this relief. How soon after applying for this program and being, let's say you're accepted because you meet the criteria that Franklyn laid out, how quickly do they see this relief from you guys? Is that within weeks, days? Is it sort of, can it be retroactive? If somebody is, they're a month past due, or they had to pay a partial bill, how does that work? Or have you guys run into those type of scenarios?
Yeah, I would say that at the end of the day, one of the criteria is they had to be 60 days plus overdue, right?
Okay.
So
okay.
we were really trying to target people who were really in a difficult spot, right?
Sure.
That was really important because, and to piggyback on what Tamla was just talking about, we had over 58,000 applications. Wow. And the $15 million that went out as a credit to the account of 30,000 people, there still is a 28,000 customer gap, right? So not only did it crash in the beginning, like she was saying, we had to readjust the capacity and let calls continue to come in and inquiry happen. But at the end, it was the same idea. We were like, the money was limited, and this is a one-time scenario that Tamla can talk about further. It's a one-time scenario that BGE is doing to provide relief. But it was gut-wrenching to see that even though 30,000 people in the sort of Central Maryland region benefited from this, there were still like 28,000 plus people that didn't. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was designed to catch people who were just really behind, right, and needed relief. And so those were happening a week or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the scenario. Some of it was back and forth, verifying various things. So like a week or 2 or 3 weeks, and then they would be in a position where they could start seeing the credit to their account. So that amount they owed between $250 to $750, that amount could be credited zero, that balance, right? So a lot of happy people. There's stories galore. And I don't know how many you have in your hip pocket, Tamla. But there are just a great amount of stories of people who were like, United Way, BGE, you have no idea how helpful this was. And this has just been a godsend, and so many different stories. I love the one you just shared. I hadn't heard that one, so I love the one you just shared. But it really is, it's a beautiful thing when two partners that have the same mission or similar focus can come together and almost seamlessly be able to deliver that kind of impact in a very short window of time, right?
So let me make sure I understand. So the program started in July, right, of 2025.
Yeah.
And it ran until the money was expended that had been allocated for the fund, which was sometime last month in October or
September.
Is there something else on the horizon for this winter season, or it may not be the same partners, but anything else? Tamla, what do you say to people who still have that need?
Yeah, so a couple of things. We have payment programs in place. We have budget billing, so it takes away some of the volatility that you might see in your bill. We also, for our federal employees specifically, who may be looking for work currently, we are removing late payments for federal employees, extending payment timelines for federal employees, just to make sure we're offering that support. In addition, on our website, and also, I would say year to date, we have been out to well over 125 neighborhood and community events to talk to customers about their bill, to talk to customers about energy efficiency, energy management, kind of giving them more power around how they can reduce usage in the household during the winter months, during the summer months. We also, through Empower Maryland, have a program where people can get energy audits. So someone comes in and talks to you about what are the things you could be doing right now in your home to reduce your use. For instance, many of us have all types of appliances plugged in. It could be your tea kettle on the counter. It could be, many of us have power strips that you might just use at night when you plug your cell phone in. But any appliance that you are not leveraging and doesn't have to be plugged in all day, you should unplug it, because even if it's not on, it is still pulling energy. So just little tips like that, the type of light bulbs you use, any tips that we can provide both on our website and when we go out to these various community and neighborhood events to talk to our customers one-on-one.
And can I, Dr. Draper, can I just add on or double click a little more on what Tamla said from United Way's perspective? So beyond, to your point, beyond sort of the immediate relief that was provided during that July-September timeframe, participants, they were connected through our 211 helpline. And so also connected to our Central Maryland Resource Guide to like ongoing supports from, energy efficiency and all sorts of budget billing programs, kind of what you were just alluding to, Tamla, and the state and federal resources like OHEP, the Office of Home Energy Programs, and MEAP, Maryland Energy Assistance Program. I think I got that right, Tamla.
Yep.
And the Fuel Fund, of Maryland, but also financial coaching, which we found very helpful for people, and other sort of wraparound services. So in many ways, honestly, the partnership, and I love thinking about it this way, the partnership worked because it wasn't transactional. It really was transformational. I mean, it delivered fast, tangible relief, but this also wrapped around with other supports that Tamla just mentioned and I just mentioned that made for a tremendous, tremendous way for people to know that not only is help on the way, help is ongoing.
That's right.
And that's good. Go ahead, Jay.
So my question is to Tamla. Is there any sort of plan? Obviously, this was for Central Maryland, right? Is there any plan? I mean, even though it left an almost as large of a gap as the amount of people that you helped, and I'm not saying that as a negative. It just shows the level of concern and need that people have, right? Yeah. Is there any thought of BGE teaming up with either other sections of United Way or some other organizations and going statewide with this, even though this is a sort of a one-shot kind of a thing? Has that been a thought process, or is the amount of funding sort of limiting the amount of reach that you can do?
Yeah, so the specific funding was for BGE customers. And, we don't serve the whole state of Maryland, but we did also have our sister utility, PEPCO, who services DC, the district, but parts of Maryland, Montgomery County, parts of PG County. They actually had $4 million for that customer base in Maryland as well.
Okay.
So between the two Exelon companies that service Maryland, it was $19 million total.
Okay. Is there, Franklyn, you sort of touched on this quickly, and so I want to dig into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
With the government shutdown, which is seemingly going to end here in the next day or two, as we're recording this, have you seen? Electric prices have been rising over the last number of months. Period. Like nationwide, Maryland has been hit with that, obviously, specifically. Some of that is due to sort of, at least from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, work on sort of upgrading grids and things like that, which are costing a lot more money, to try to kind of push us into the past, a little bit into the future, right? But also just sort of restraints on just how much energy we're using in general, right? Obviously, Maryland is a very specific and a unique case, as you pointed out. And then there's also less access to sort of federal funding, as a lot of that money has suddenly kind of vaporized. How are you guys handling that? I mean, obviously, I didn't know until this interview that Baltimore Gas and Electric did not, in fact, provide the gas and electric. So I feel like you guys are fighting sort of a two-front kind of a situation, which is trying to provide relief, but also kind of educating people of like, oh, like we would turn on more energy, so to speak, if we could. Like, so how are you guys dealing with that? Because you're kind of between a rock and a hard place as well. And also that puts your customers in that same position.
Well, Tamla can respond, but I'll just say, Jay, real quickly, a no-brainer. Part of our strategy, which has been great so far, is working together, teaming together to get into platforms like this, Chicken Box and others, to share for people who may just not know, that, hey, I'm just the middleman. I'm not providing, you know what I mean? And that gives clarity around actions we're taking and strategy. So, Tamla, you want to like double click on it a little more?
Yeah, it's a great question, and to your point, Maryland is just in a unique place because they're not producing 100% of the power that is being consumed in state. Our customers are paying more for those electrons to get to the state, and suppliers right now, they're making money hand over foot, right? Because when you have scarcity in supply and demand is high, of course, they are raking in the dough. Right. Ultimately, one of the things that would help solve this issue in the state of Maryland specifically is if there was more generation of power being made in the state. And so one of the things the state has done, they put out an RFP to the competitive market, so the generators who actually produce power, put an RFP out for 3 gigs of power. The competitive market showed up with about half saying that they would explore building new generation in the state. The problem is to build that new generation, it's 5 to 7 years. Our regional transmission operator, you've heard the term PJM, which manages the transmission of power across 13 states. Maryland being one of those states, has basically said in the summer of 2027, Baltimore City and the surrounding counties will experience brownouts and blackouts because we're not able to get enough electrons into the state. Another fact that folks might not be aware of is Brandon Shores is a generator locally in the state. Months ago, they said, hey, we're going to close. We're going to stop generating power. We're out of the business. And the regional transmission operator said, you can't do that because Maryland is in a really bad position. You're going to create brownouts if we don't have that 1,500 megawatts of power. And so the state and customers across the state, they're going to pay $15 million a month so that you stay running, and through the end of 2028, customers are paying $15 million a month. That is $4 on your bill every single month through 2028 to keep Brandon Shores running. Talon is the generator until we can get a new transmission line built to get more electrons from other states so that Maryland has enough power to basically run the state safely and reliably. So Maryland is not in a good position right now when you're talking about brownouts and blackouts in Baltimore City and surrounding counties. I get particularly concerned about that because it's a safety issue. But also when I think about the communities that it's going to be touching and impacting, really when you're talking about Baltimore City, that's predominantly Black and brown communities. That's a problem.
So is this correct, what I'm seeing, which is 60% of the power that Maryland consumes is actually, or excuse me, 60% of the power that Maryland consumes is generated in state, and 40% is imported.
That's right.
That is a mind-blowing statistic. And I think if a lot of people knew that, I think they would have a very different thought process of, oh, my electric bill is so, or my energy bills are so high. It's like, yeah, because almost 50% of it is out of state. That is this common amongst many states, or?
There are other states that are challenged in the same way, but I'll give you an example. If you look at Virginia, their utilities are vertically integrated. So Virginia is producing and generating currently the power that they need to support the load in the state is being produced in state. So when there were increases in pricing, Virginia went up about $2 a bill, while we went up $20 a bill. So being able to own our energy destiny and be able to produce that energy in state would be significant in terms of affordability for our customers. And then, Jay, you talked a little bit about infrastructure investment. I'm glad you talked about that. Maryland as a state received a D+ rating for energy infrastructure by the American Society of Civil Engineers, a D+. Now, I will tell you, the United States of America also received a D+. Virginia, I think, was a C-. DC was a D+. But again, it also gets to this fact that, we are trying to create more growth and economic development in the state. It's really hard to do that if you don't have reliable energy. It's almost impossible. So we have seen businesses leaving to go to Virginia, to Tennessee, where they know they're going to have reliable energy, but also in states where they believe it's easier to do business in.
Just one more question, and I'm going to kick it to Dr. Draper here. I'm sorry, I'm such a nerd about this kind of stuff, so I'm incredibly fascinated by this. You're breaking news to me. So where does alternative energy come in that regard? Because again, federal money for this has evaporated over the last number of months. I mean, there was at a time a big push for solar power and things like that. Is that a way to sort of lessen the amount of stress that is on the grid by Maryland citizens? Like, if you can afford to do solar power at your house or things like this, is the technology there, in your opinion, to really kind of help, as a broad base to sort of bring the pressure down on everybody?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We absolutely want to see more renewables coming on the grid. And again, to your earlier point, the grid has to be able to support those renewables. I think, in 2017, Maryland had really worked hard to start a solar wind project off the coast, and that is now dead in the water. So it never materialized. And I think what happened is we were probably over optimistic about the amount of renewables and how quickly those renewables would come online, and we closed these fossil fuel plants. And then it didn't materialize as quickly as what we thought. But, we are having conversations with the state about, how can we help? What might that look like? Community solar, utility grade solar, battery storage, just to your point, to help support definitely peak loads in the state. But yes, renewables will absolutely be part of the solution.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
So who knew, right? I mean, this is.
I didn't. Today I learned.
Today we learned, and we learned a lot of things like don't unplug your refrigerator, but unplug some other things. Sounds like you could unplug your microwave and unplug your computers and unplug. So some things we can do to help ourselves.
And ladies, your flat irons, they don't have to be plugged in all day long.
I have this issue. Sorry. I'm probably the biggest cause of this.
Jay, you're lucky. You're lucky,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, right.
But it
Or
really,
those people who leave their TV on, they go to work and come back, the
Oh,
TV is on. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
right.
not good. Not good.
But this is something that impacts all of us. And Franklin, you see a lot of people with so many needs around food insecurity, around housing, and then how to just afford to turn a light on. And it sounds like if you don't even turn it on, you're still going to get,
Yeah.
you're still going to get this bill for all the add-ons that are there. And so, Franklin, as you go through Central Maryland and you listen to people, because you just meet so many needs, how high up on the list is this energy, um, you know, bill or concern about energy?
So every year we have generally like the three top things. Sometimes the top two are interchangeable between housing, right? Which is, people always, housing, yeah, housing is a huge issue.
yeah.
Preventing evictions and relocation assistance and all the things related to housing. And the one usually below that is food insecurity, all
Mhm.
things kind of food, and then right below that usually is utilities, in various forms. And so I'd say there are some years where utility may drop to number four, but generally it's either three or four, in terms of the buckets of things that people are concerned about, calling about, trying to get some sort of credit. Can you patch me into a fund or a program, something that can be helpful? So yeah, it is a huge issue, and it will remain. And to hear Tamla talk is kind of really amazing to hear what's out there relative to the data and what's being reported and what's not being reported, like you were sort of alluding to, Jay. There's some things that unless you know someone like Tamla Olivier, you will never know,
Right.
right? Because she's on the know and she's in the inside. But yeah, not just as you mentioned earlier, though, Jay. I mean, when I think about the shutdown, right? And yes, in the coming days, it looks likely that it'll end. At least that part of the scenario is because of that, but also more than that. We, United with Central Maryland, we launched a new initiative, the United for Good Community Relief Fund, right? So we really created this relief fund just to respond, like I said, to the ongoing government shutdown. We stood it up, the growing affordability crisis in Central
Mhm.
Maryland, right, and throughout the state. Um, Concerned community members can certainly donate, and I don't know if our friends behind the scenes will post this, but they can donate by visiting our website at uwcm.org/United, not the number four, but the word for United, FOR, good, United for Good. So uwcm.org/United for Good. This fund, for your listeners, it expands United Way's ability to deliver emergency assistance, to support overburdened nonprofits. And there's so many in Maryland, right? But also to increase our 211 helpline capacity so we can meet the surge in calls for help, right? And so this effort, we're really sort of excited about this. They didn't have to do this, but this effort was jump-started by the first donation from Freeman and Jackie Rabowski, longtime champions of education and equity and opportunity. And so, the bottom line that the need is is immense. Like a couple of stats that your listeners probably should hear, right?
Mhm.
34% of Maryland's federal employees live in Central Maryland.
Mhm.
39% of households can't make ends meet. The sort of 2025 Alice report that I mentioned earlier. And this one here, more than 692,000 Marylanders rely on SNAP benefits, with many losing access due to the shutdown. So as I said in our announcement, I said this fund ensures that no one faces this shutdown or any emergency alone, right? So, the last thing I'll say really is the United for Good Community Relief Fund. It just continues our century-long tradition of mobilizing in times of crisis, right? Ensuring help reaches those who need it most, And we're just trying to call on everyone, every neighbor, just act now, right? Donate to the site. The needs, believe this or not, Jay and Dr. Draper, the needs will actually be ongoing for weeks and months, if not longer, for many of the families, because they may have taken out some sort of payday loan. They may have borrowed some money from someone. They may have maxed out the credit card, any level of savings they had, and they've been those impacted here in Maryland. And they've really been struggling. And so it's going to take them some time, especially if they're behind on the rent or the mortgage, take some time to catch up and get back to quote unquote normal. So this fund will be engaged and active and live. We'll rely on partners like Tamla, BGE, and so many others to wrap around support with this where they can, to kind of make sure we're well positioned to meet these needs.
Franklyn, can you say that website one more time?
Yeah, it's uwcm.org/United for FOR Good, United for Good, and it's available for folks to go in there. Any amount, right, is certainly welcome, and we just need the help big time, right?
Okay. And the other thing that you gave out a couple times now, and some people may not know, can you say a little bit more about what 211 is? What happens? You're talking about by dialing those numbers, right? 211, like you do 411 or 911.
Yeah.
So
literally just press 211. Literally press that. They're about Dr. Draper. They're about, for your listeners, they're about 7,000 resources that our call specialists have at their fingertip to offer as source of support and direction and navigation and curation for the callers, right? So, veteran lost a job, becoming homeless. Where do I go specifically in Central Maryland to be eligible, to receive services efficiently, to be supported? Aging parent. I'm in a difficult crisis with my Social Security because of the shutdown. I'm waiting on payments, etc. Where do I go for support? So it is truly. I have this slogan that I use, Jay, Dr. Draper, that says there are more than 211 reasons why one should call 211. Right? That makes sense. Literally everything under the bucket of Health and Human Services. Any of your folks who are listening to this now, and you have a family member, yourself, colleague, if you're in the health space, you probably already know this, but if you are in the health space and one of your patients needs some support that's outside of the hospital system, literally, call for support.
And that's 24/7.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do want to just shout out Franklyn's team. I've had an opportunity to go and listen to 211 calls, and his team of, I would say, care representatives that are answering these calls are absolutely amazing, because the types of calls that come in, sometimes people are in dire need, and they are able to connect them with various services, resources, from housing to food to you name it, clothing, jobs, workforce development. It's pretty amazing.
Kudos to, and thank you for that shout out. Let me ask you this, Tamla, go back to all that you said about what's happening in Maryland. It seems like Virginia is handling it a little bit differently. So we get ready to go into another legislative session shortly. Will there be, let me see my words straight, legislation or other things that people can do to help to, I don't want to say reverse this trend, but help to give some relief in a way that we won't be by 2027 experiencing all these brown and blackouts? Or are we so close to it now it's not too much people can do?
Yeah, I would say we are certainly in conversation with General Assembly members, the governor's office, to really talk about what do the solutions look like, what are the portfolio of solutions. But to your point, a lot of these solutions, to get them online, it doesn't happen overnight, 5 to 7 years in some cases. That being said, we are quite frankly behind in solutioning this problem. But we will continue to partner with the state on coming up with various solutions and then what we can do to be part of the solution as it relates to generation in the state.
Well, thank you. So if you're just tuning in, you may have stumbled across this conversation. This is the Chicken Box, powered by the 133-year-old Afro News, afro.com. Go to afro.com. And every week we have a conversation with fascinating guests like the two guests today, Franklyn Baker and Tamla Olivier, as we've talked about energy, but mostly about, this conversation has been about people helping people.
That's right.
And it's been about partnerships and collaborations,
Mm-hmm.
about senior leaders in influential positions who don't just go to do jobs that benefit their companies, but and their jobs are to benefit other people. In fact, Franklin, that's what you all do on a day-to-day basis. As Pamela's explained, they're a utility provider they don't provide gas and electric, but they are the DoorDash of bringing it to your door and making sure
she's not going to be able to shake it, Dr. Draper.
She started that. But I think that helps people to understand, right?
It does.
That
Absolutely.
helps
Great
people to
analogy.
understand
Yeah.
and the critical nature of what we have to do to our infrastructure and all of that, and some of the practical things about what we can do. So if you're just tuning in, go back to the beginning so you can hear all of that background. Jay, I think it's about time to get on the box. You want to explain what that looks like?
Absolutely. So what we're asking our two guests to do is Dr. Draper and I will go first, and then leave it to the two of you in the end. Is to sort of, what do you want people to leave this conversation and take with them, right? So sort of about a minute, if you can sort of either summarize your thoughts on what we talked about today, or if you want to talk about something completely different, which would be super odd, but it's up to you. If you want to talk about how the Ravens are doing now that Lamar's back.
No.
Okay, I figured out, but I just like to put it out there. So just what do you want people to take away, kind of put in their pocket, and so they have information to share with others, and what they learned today with us talking to you. So I will go first, put myself on the box. Look, I mean, energy price, much like food scarcity and any other sort of life necessities, some people run into real challenges, whether they are through their own choices or not. And in this case, with energy prices, a lot of it is not their own choices, right? These are just circumstances that have happened to people. And for me personally, I think that seeing what has happened over at least the last 7 weeks of people not having, SNAP benefits and not being paid and things like that, really shines a light on something that I think we all know, but sometimes we forget in sort of the monotony of life, which is sometimes life gets really hard, whether you choose it to be or not. And it's nice when there are programs like the Relief Fund that BGE and United Way of Central Maryland came up with. And it's also helpful to understand why we're in these situations, which I always personally find important. It's one thing to be in them and trying to work to get out of them, but it's also, how do we kind of keep ourselves out of it or lessen the burden if these things come up again? So I appreciate the sort of the little kind of ideas and hacks that you were saying, like, hey, maybe don't leave a TV on all day. We should all know that, but like sometimes you have to say these things. But to keep energy costs low, and also these other things of like what BGE's role is in this. What is Central, United Way of Central Maryland's role in this, trying to help people? So I both, I learned a lot, quite honestly, and I appreciate both of you with your candor and your information. So thank you. So I will pass it to Dr. Draper.
So I'm a hop on the box. So my mother used to say all the time, "There, but for the grace of God, go I." And I think that we forget that most of us, we had a shutdown, like the government shutdown, and we're not getting paid for 2, 3, 4 payrolls. There's a point that everybody has that says, okay, my resources are limited. And a lot of times it's not because of anything you've done, it's because of a circumstance that was imposed upon you. And I feel like that's somewhat on Tamla around this whole energy crisis because it's nothing that the consumer can. There are things you said that there are things that the consumer can do to, try to conserve some things. But there's so many things that are outside of the realm of the consumer's grasp that they cannot do. But one thing that we can do as consumers, as people, is what you and Franklin have done, what the United Way of Central Maryland and Baltimore Gas and Electric have done. Partner,
Mm-hmm.
work together to see how you might benefit more people and help people in these situations and circumstances that any of us can find ourselves in. So I just want to thank you both for being here on today. Thank you for the work that you do. And your work is not situational.
Mm.
You didn't all of a sudden decide that you were going to do something good for community. Both of your organizations are well known in the Baltimore region for how you support and give back to community. So I want to commend you for that, for being good corporate citizens. There are people who are not good corporate citizens uh, as well, but you're good corporate citizens, and there are a lot of people who are. So thank you for the work that you are doing. I know that the demand is great, and I can only imagine all of the times that you want to do more, and you are not able to do everything that you'd like to do as well. But thank you for what you are doing. Thank you for helping us to understand, kind of, sort of, in layman's terms, Tamla, kind of, sort of.
I said DoorDash.
Right. We get it. We get it. But it's complicated. It's
It
complicated.
is complicated. Amen.
Yes,
Yes.
it is. You use some terms that Dr. Google and I are going to have to talk about a little later. But thank you for sharing with us today and for letting us know. And if there's any way that we at the Afro can help to break it down so that you know
Mm.
people can understand it a little bit better. Doesn't make us feel better, as our energy bills increase, right? But at least we have a better understanding around all of the things that are involved there. So
Mm.
thank you so much. And Franklin, thank you for all of the work that you are doing at the United Way of Central Maryland as well. And I am off the box, Franklin. You're on the box.
You jumped off that box, did you?
I did.
So, thank you so much, Dr. Draper, and thank you, Jay, and those behind the scenes. Very much a pleasure to have these conversations. We have, I think, today in our conversation, we have largely been talking about how we work together to help people downstream. Basic needs. I'm in a jam. I need support. But in addition to that, we also do lots of work upstream or preventative in nature, right? So there's a quote from Frederick Douglass that I use quite normally with young people, but it applies generally, and it simply says, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, right? And so to the extent that we do both is helpful, but the thing we really do try to fixate on a lot is doing the upstream work, doing the preventative work before we get to a crisis. But we're also there as a fail-safe. We're also there helping folks that have fallen through the cracks, that have been impacted in an adverse way, to get them back up, right? So it is a joy and it's a privilege to partner with Tamla and BGE and so many other groups that care about both upstream and downstream. Just a tremendous joy and privilege to do that.
Thank you. Tamla, you're on the box.
Well, Franklin was still on the box, so I didn't know if I was supposed to jump off, get on, push him off, what I was doing there. But
No,
I'm
you're
officially
good.
off the box
Push him
now.
off.
I'm
Just-
are
officially
you officially out?
He's been here before. It's okay.
Yeah, Franklin's off the box. Got it. One, we've talked about a lot today, but one of the things that I am just thankful and grateful for the partnership that exists, whether it's with United Way, with the Afro, but a shout out to the Afro. there's a lot going on in the world right now. And you're not just about journalism, you're about being a lifeline. And you do it with truth, with dignity, with depth. And some of those things have, quite frankly, been lost in journalism, if we're being honest. And I think many times there are, you amplify voices that tend to be unheard. And then you also routinely highlight the brilliance that is this community. And sometimes you are sharing things that are not popular with the rest of the world. But you do it unafraid and with courage. And we just appreciate everything you're doing in the community to keep us plugged in. Because when the rest of the world forgets, you remember. So thank you for everything you do. Dr. Draper and Jay and the rest of the Afro community, thank you so much. I guess what I would want to end with is, one, BGE is more than energy. This is not just about us delivering safe and reliable service to your door each and every day, but we care about our customers. We care about our community. At our core is giving back in the community. And so being able to have partners like Franklyn and the United Way to continuously look at new ways to support our communities, especially now, is absolutely critical. It's top of mind for us. In addition, really working with the state to figure out what we can do to be in a position to earn really our energy destiny. We want to own that so that it reduces the cost that people are currently paying for their electricity in the state of Maryland. So we will continue to fight that fight and be customer advocates. Dr. Draper, you talked about, people may be feeling like there's not much they can do. They can absolutely write their delegates, their state senators to say, hold suppliers and generators accountable for lowering the price of a commodity that did not change from 23 to 25. It's the same commodity, but folks are paying a significantly increased premium just to get that energy into the state. But hold those generators accountable for lowering their prices and coming up with a solution at the state level so that we can reduce the cost of power for all of Marylanders. And we want to be partners in that. But thank you so much for including us in this discussion. I'm guessing I'll probably get some questions after this, and happy to discuss this in more detail, but really appreciate you having me and Franklyn on today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well, thank you. If our third host, Impeccable, was on, he would say, call a senior today, let them know that you care about them. And he would say, don't text them, pick up the phone, the old-fashioned phone, and call them. And
you mean that dinosaur?
Right.
That's right.
Right. So thank you all again for being on the Boxx on today. To our viewers, thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And when you see something, say something. Don't be a chicken. Get on the
chicken. I love it.